Welcome, everyone, to the We Move Forward Together podcast. And let me tell you, if you're a person that's interested in social justice, in community building, in ecology, in spirituality, you've come to the right place. And this is our inaugural episode. And I'm so excited about our guest today. And what you'll find here on this podcast are the stories of the men and women who serve and find joy in serving each one of us. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. She was raised in the Bronx, and when she was about 12 years old, moved out to Long Island, to my hometown, Levittown. Graduated from Malloy College, served as a school teacher in Manhattan, and then found her calling to join the Dominican Sisters of Amityville. We're going to get deep into that. She's got master's degrees in theology, spiritual direction, formation. Quite the leader in our world. And I'm so happy to welcome the prioress of the Dominican Sisters of Amityville, Sister Peggy McVetty. Peggy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. I didn't even recognize anyone except the person who grew up in Levittown. That's it. And maybe just one thing, because I'll be in trouble. Not you,
okay.
I'll be in trouble. Is that Malloy is now a university, so Malloy University. But in truth, I did graduate. That's how old I am, from Malloy College. It is now a university. Appreciate it.
If you notice, I kept the dates out because, who cares about that?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, I'm so excited. I got invited to produce this podcast, and it's amazing how sometimes things fall into your lap. And for me, the excitement is true in that I live with two women, my wife and my daughter, who are the embodiment of action, women of action. And I want to talk to you. I want to get into your background, but first I want to talk about the We Move Together initiative started by your group, and in a nutshell. Okay.
Sure.
It's been explained to me that it invites individuals and groups to connect and aim to forge new ministries and create partnerships. That's it in a nutshell. But if you can kind of expand upon why we have this We Move Forward Together initiative and some of the goals and the direction and hopes for this ministry.
Sure. I'll certainly try anyway.
Okay.
I know that about 7 years ago, under the leadership of one of our sisters, Margaret Gagliardi, a group of us talked about our reality as a congregation here on Long Island. We have been so blessed to be of service to the people of Brooklyn and Long Island, Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island, which of course is Long Island, but
right.
Most of us don't.
That's the city. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, and so our reality is that we are aging. We are not welcoming women in the same number as we once did, welcoming to vowed religious life. At the same time, we are truly excited, believe in our mission as we follow in the footsteps of St. Dominic and his vision of bringing, goodness and God's love to the world. So, as I said, about 7 years ago, Margaret and some people came together and committed themselves to working in new ways, in different ways, to reaching out to others. And, as you well said, for the ideas of collaboration, to explore together, things like Laudato Si, the Pope Francis's invitation to the world to consider, the future plight of our universe. So that kind of thing. To collaborate together, to explore together areas of spirituality, justice. How can we continue our mission, understanding that other people besides our own little world are as interested as we are? So that's really been, from my vantage point, the excitement of what's going on. Perhaps our committee has helped to create some of the ideas, but even that has expanded. So it's not just the committee creating agendas or topics or things like that. So it's really an attempt to acknowledge that there are others that are interested and work together, certainly, and make an impact on Long Island in any way we can.
Yeah, it all starts locally, right?
Yes.
because we can all fall into the trap of, I have no voice. What can I do? I'm just one person. We live in a world where, at least in America, the individual is primary. Your congregation is inspired by St. Dominic in many ways, particularly to read the sign of the times. How has your community collectively and you personally responded to the sign of the times?
I think it's important to, well, it certainly is important to me to go back to the original foundings of our Amityville congregation, because it's inspiring, really.
Yeah.
It's a great story. Basically, four sisters from Germany, from a cloistered Dominican congregation, monastic congregation in Germany, set themselves on a journey to come to this country because they were responding to a sign of the time. And that sign of the time was an invitation to come to New York to work with the German immigrants and teach their children. So from four sisters who eventually from New York City landed in Brooklyn. Our original mother house is still in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg. Eventually came to Long Island. So those are our roots. So it's in us. It's in our DNA, our sense of mission. And I think to answer your question about recent signs of the times, again, we have to see in a kind of historical way. There was a time when we were involved with hospital ministry, reaching out to orphans, with school ministry. Most of us, especially currently, are remembered a lot for our impact on education and teaching in schools. But I would say in the 70s, 80s, we, along with other people, kind of realized the different needs that were happening besides school ministries, different ways of teaching, working in a parish, outreach particularly, responding to those who were with food insecurity or employment situations, those kinds of things. So there's been a lot more outreach of late. I would say literacy is something we're involved in. We have a program called Opening Word, and we have 2 sites for that, which reach out to immigrant women. That's a sign of the time, obviously. And then all the issues of justice, and even in our own aging, retired sisters. Well, we don't say retired.
We don't. Okay.
Even though that's language most of us use, most of our sisters who are retired are volunteering somewhere, or if not physically able to reach out in that way, they're definitely in the ministry of prayer, praying for so many things. And you're right, in this time, in this world, in this chaos, they're all needed. And again, not only just for us or by ourselves, but more and more too. Find people who are like mind. And that seems to be really important right now, really important.
Yeah, what's for those who are listening, please comment, please share. You might be thinking of somebody right now who's looking for a vehicle to address their need to be honest with you, to find more, to talk about having a fulfilled life. And that's what Jesus wants for us. He wants us to have a fulfilled life, no matter the crooked road that leads us to the right vehicle. The We Move Forward Together initiative might be the place that you investigate. And our hope is that you'll hear the stories of the various people we have set up to interview. And I'm telling you, it blew me away. I'll leave that as a mystery, because we believe in mysteries, right? But the stories are amazing. And I want to talk about your story. Sure. So you moved to Levittown. You went through the public school system, right? And then you realized a calling. And that's always interesting to me. How'd you hear the calling? And boom, you're a Dominican sister. So tell me about those early times, about discerning.
Yeah, I'd be glad to, because I think in sharing my story, not that it's that exciting, at the same time, I think everyone has a story. So I'm so grateful for people and situations that help me understand perhaps a sense of call. And it was a sense of call. So I'll just say, bottom line was, as we said, I went to Malloy University and had some of the Dominican sisters there. But that was in the late 60s and early 70s. And to be honest, I really didn't pay any attention other than listening in class to the sisters. No, that was just not part of my world. Part of my world at that time was much more social and fun, and got through school. It just happened that graduating in 71 was, the height of Vietnam and the whole challenge of finding a job in education. It was very difficult to find a job because, not to blame you, Steve, but men were trying to teach, to deal with the draft and things like that. So the day before, literally the night before, you're too young probably, literally the night before school opened in 71, I got a phone call from a friend whose friend was a Dominican sister who was a principal and was desperate for a teacher. So desperate that on the spot that night, I got a job teaching. And I just have to say the name of the parish because it was perfect. And I loved it. I grew to love it. But the name of the parish was Our Lady of Sorrows on Pitt Street down in the Lower East Side. It's right off the Williamsburg Bridge, down by Delancey, Orchard, all that. And so I commuted for 3 years from Levittown to Manhattan. And my dream at that time was to be married. Thought I was at least fairly serious with someone. And I was going to have 12 children. That was a given. I was going to teach and I was going to have this family. And that's the way the first couple of years went. And then to cut to the chase, that was the time of the gasoline shortage. So even my Volkswagen with the small tank couldn't get gasoline. So the sisters that were there suggested that I stay at the convent from Monday to Friday and then go back to Levittown. And I did that for a few months. And I think that's really part of what happened. I think I kind of grew to understand better their life. I loved working there. I loved the people there. I loved the diversity. It was back to my original South Bronx roots. In the Hispanic population. And I wound up running a day camp there for the summer. And so all that started to kind of
gel, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then honestly, I taught a class in confirmation and the 7th graders. And I was literally like one page ahead of them because I did not really come from a church-going family. We were always brought to religion classes or whatever, but it was not in my history. So I literally was learning confirmation at the same time as teaching it. And honestly, I had a moment. It really was a moment. It's still as real as if it happened now. We are at the confirmation. I heard scripture for the first time in my life. I really heard it very personally. And from there, I tried to deny the sense of being called to religious life. And it worked for a few months, but it didn't work totally. So I basically entered or applied to enter and was accepted. And then that summer when I was accepted, 5 of the sisters that were working at the community where I was said they were leaving. And I really did not understand what that meant. I think I was so caught up in my own sense of, let me get through this in 2 weeks, I'll be out and let me get it out of my system. So anyway, that's what happened. And this year I just celebrated my 50th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, as an Amityville Dominican. Certainly along the way, some times of struggle and some times of real, is this really what God wants, what I want? Is this what the congregation, is this a good thing for everybody? And, obviously it's been a great ride, and just to say it's not about me in this story. I mean that sincerely. You have a story, and I'm sure there are points in your life that are very meaningful. Continues to be almost a daily thing of, is this the best place? And I have to say it is. And I think we know that from the level of purpose and meaning we feel. Mm-hmm. And I hope from joy. I really hope. Not always, totally love.
Life has an ebb and tide to it,
Right.
What I find so interesting about the time period when you had your calling. Let's just bring some people back. Vatican II was summed up in the early 60s. A lot of people don't know this, but because of World War II, because of the concentration camps, and I'm not showing this, is the church recognized we've got a humanity problem in that people have done this to people and denigrated people and what have you, and the church needed to make changes. To see that the sign of the times is telling your congregation to say, hey, you know, we've really got something great here. We've got good news. We've got the gospel. We've got action. We've got activism. We've got great stories. We need help. We need associates. We need companions to walk with us on this journey. And I'm using this type of language to demystify the program. We're not trying to recruit sisters into the Dominican order. That happens. God bless. Great. But we're really looking for people to hear the stories that we've been open to say, holy, you know, wow, I want that. I want that joy. I want that sense of going out to my brother and sister and see where I'm needed, where I can make an impact. Tell me about your experience of being a teacher and where you've taught and some of the memorable things in your life.
One of the reasons, or perhaps the motives of entering the congregation too, was I really wanted to be part of something bigger. I wanted to, and I think that's part of the 60s too, you know, I wanted to be with people who were more like-minded and that could make an impact different than I could as an individual. You know, so community has really been helpful like that. And I think I am part of the transition from the mystery to perhaps more visible signs or symbols of our life as a vowed woman. But to your point, yes, you know, the interesting thing is unlike most of us, I only taught for a year or two and then then eventually became campus minister. I did vocation work for our congregation for a long time and formation. So my teaching career is minimal. At the same time, I also then went on for social work. So it's very similar. The impact is very similar. There are times when we're blessed to know perhaps the impact we have, and most times, we don't know. Like yourself, I hope you know some impact, but you probably don't know even from this work that you're doing, the impact of what you're doing. So, I think that's part of why this whole idea of we move forward together is so important, because we want to build community. We know there are other people besides us, besides those of us who are called to the vowed life. But we want to be part, and people are doing such good work that we probably cannot do at this point in our history, but we can do it together. And I think as Christians, really talking about baptismal call, we all have the same call as Christians. But in this time of life, and as I said, particularly in this time of history, we need to be even more expansive than Christian communities, to work with any faith, any group of people who are willing to, really partner together for the sake of the common good. So, when you were telling me about your daughter, it's so clear. She has a call within a call, and her call is maybe different than yours or mine, but there are a lot of similarities in it. And that's exciting. That's really who we feel St. Dominic is calling us to be today, to please welcome our wisdom and our experience in life, but at the same time, welcome yours too, yours and others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. I'm thinking when I went to visit you at the Mother House, there was a great painting. I don't know if you have it there, of St. Dominic with his sandals off to the side, where I think he's cleaning his feet or something like that,
Right here.
It ties back into, he was an itinerant preacher, out and about, okay, walking with people. We move forward together. And it's in that, I think about, we're on social media now, okay? Getting involved in social media is a double-edged sword in many ways. And there is a website. It's called wemoveforwardtogether.org or wmft.org. So please check that out and go deeper in that. And I'll repeat myself, comment and share on that.
It just is so critical, I think, for all of us to be open doesn't mean necessarily to change or to accept, or, it's not a competition. It's more, what are the essential values of our life together on this planet? What do we really believe? And how do we treat each other? It sounds so simplistic, but I can't tell you how often of late people ask for kindness. You just think, you take for granted that there's a kindness in most of our consciousness. But Peggy McVetty, guess what? There is not necessarily that. So those ways, I think we move forward together, but we're in it together too. And I mean that globally. I just came back from Rome.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's right. From being at meetings.
You were on ABC News.
Oh, well, I didn't, I just dropped it. I didn't want to, go there. But my point being that although it was, again, a meeting of Catholic sisters, it was 900 religious superiors from 90 countries. And again, I'm just using that personal example right now. But even in being in the square when the new Pope came out of the balcony, it was a diverse crowd. It wasn't just Catholics or Christians. And you could literally feel in these two situations the need for kindness and the desire for something that is bringing hope to us in this global community. I know there's a lot of turmoil, a lot of tension, a lot of conflict, but we need to go to not what makes us feel different, but what brings us together as a similar.
I agree with you. And it's those shared experiences. It's the shared stories. It's the learning, being open to learning, particularly in the political times today, of dehumanizing the other, the immigrant, the refugee, making them enemies. My daughter taught me this, and I never realized this. When you meet somebody homeless on the street, small thing. It's a small thing. It's a huge thing. Ask them their name. They may not have heard their own name for a month. And that's to your point on kindness, where we ask ourselves always, what can I do? I can ask somebody their name. I can be kind to them. I can know my limitations not to, do things that could lead them to a bad direction, as far as maybe I don't want to give them money because I know it's this or that, but everyone's hungry. Everyone deserves food. And it's those it's so weird. It's a cliche. You get more from giving than receiving is so true in the joy of a kindness campaign, to bring that sort of joy out into the world. And I think that's what is so true about We Move Forward Together. This is an invitation. This is an invitation to hear the stories, and then we will show you ways that you can partner up and join us and bring your charism, the things that God gave you as skills that you want to grow on, that are going to contribute to the world, to our neighbors, but come right back at you. And I think that's the cool part about this.
I think the other part of that is we can share, but everyone else can with us too, because we have a lot of growth that's needed. When I say we, I mean certainly myself personally, but we as a congregation, we as a community, we can learn from others too, and we have. We really have, but we need to. It's mutual. It's all mutual. I really believe that.
Yeah, it's what I love about the fact that you're reaching out, okay, and you're recognizing this is the period of the life of the congregation. This is the call that St. Dominic is driving us towards, and there's certainly a mystical influence of the Holy Spirit, of the saints, of our relatives, that live on in some new life, however you want to look at it. And those moments of silence and prayer and stuff that you can kind of feel that influence. How many people have told you, I feel like my mom's calling me to do this, and to pray on, hey, what does God have in mind for me? And please speak to me so I can hear it.
Steve, if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to something you said before. I wouldn't be able to directly quote it, but please. What I heard was the idea of sometimes a confusion about the word contemplation or what that means. And I just would use this example. Part of Dominican spirituality is that St. Dominic said to share with others the fruits of your contemplation. That's that kind of language.
Okay.
I think in another way, it means basically, and you pointed this out, it's in our own prayer, in our own quiet, in our own inner self to take the time, choose the time. And I know it's a challenge for me, so I'm not preaching at anyone. I have to say it to myself, to really reflect about what's going on around you, reflect about what's going on inside. Just take some time to think, to pray, to let the silence speak too. And then from there, what will that do? How will it move you? Or what maybe what will I learn? What will you learn? Kind of thing. So I think, the idea of sharing your reflective self is really sharing contemplation and the choice of taking time, which is such a challenge for all of us, such a challenge for everybody. Anyone listening, anyone looking at us, it's a challenge. There's no question about it.
Tell me about living in community in a congregation, living under a rule, meaning there's certain things you do at certain times of day and certain practices that you put in place. How has that formed you as a person? How has that helped you grow? How has it frustrated you?
Which one do I start with first?
Yeah, it's ladies' choice. So
no. Well, again, I take more time, but there are different ways of living out being a sister in this, well, all time, but in this time particularly. We come from a monastic background where that some of those rules would be more restrictive. We're an apostolic congregation, so we don't have that kind of rigid schedule.
Oh, all right.
So a lot of what I'm going to say is really a decision or a choice made by those who live locally together. For instance, I live right now with one other sister, and we, because of life, we have carved out for time for morning prayer. That's the best time for us. It's the time we really see each other the most. So that, again, from my experiences, that is really the way I begin the day. And honestly, it's become not so much a choice anymore as it's needed. And it sets the tone for my day and hopefully for the other sister I live with. Most local communities kind of carve either morning prayer, evening prayer, both, whatever is going to be helpful to them in terms of common prayer. Okay. And then our own, choosing personal time is just that. One figures out in their day what's best. So, for instance, the sister I live with, I know her better time to pray is the morning. My better time is about 11 o'clock at night. That's my time when I usually, it depends on personalities and life and whatever. So I guess the best way to say it is the value of prayer, the value of common prayer, individual prayer is a choice. It's definitely a choice. And how we do that, there's no restriction, no rule. What is more important or is as valuable is it's an essential. We believe it's an essential in community life, and how we do that. And that, for many sisters, not for me necessarily, because I entered later in my life. I was 25 when I entered, but so many of our sisters entered right from high school, and they did live that lifestyle of a more monastic life for a bit. Vatican II, everything changed that. So, for instance, I have a friend who is celebrating her 50th year next year in a monastic community, a Trappistine community in Canada. Her lifestyle is different than mine, but the essentials are pretty much the same. Community, prayer, a sense of mission, or what purpose do you bring to your life? So that's kind of a quick way. Just as you figure out your time, or your daughter does, or your wife does, what's good for you, personal time, and then as a family, how do you do that? So it's a lot of common decisions.
Right. And as I get older, I'm finding out that I have to kind of correct that and get back into, because you can go into survival mode. You can go into what I call panic prayer mode, when it's a 911 call to God to,
yes,
please help me. But getting in the practice of being present, God's present to us, being present to God, and then what I'm feeling, and thank you for this time together, being present together and having these conversations is part of community. Just to reiterate to those who are listening, please come to the website.
Yes, I was going to say.
Yeah, we move forward
Facebook,
together.
website.
It'll be, by the way, the links will be in the description. I'm telling you, the people we're talking to now, you're thinking of somebody, whether it's yourself, your brother, your sister, your uncle, your grandfather, whomever, say, you know what, they could really use this. They could use this, and I don't care what age you are, okay?
For sure.
To say, you know what, I'm going to take a turn today because it ain't happening in my life, and I need God's help to make it happen, and I need a vehicle, whatever that vehicle, because there's so many choices of where you can take what you have.
Absolutely.
And bring it to the world and make an impact.
So,
Anyway.
Steve, I would just add, certainly
Please.
We Move Forward Together website, and also the Sisters of St. Dominic of Amityville, their website can lead you to that website too, and other things. So absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Social media, again, in its best way is helpful because it's a connector. It can provide in a different way some relationships, or at least an awareness of other great groups of people, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, we've tackled a few things about your background, but it was important for us for the audience to meet you.
Thank you.
Sister Peggy, what a pleasure. I'm really so looking forward to the guests that we have coming up. I'll throw a little mystery. We'll meet a guest in the near future who has over 90 years of service. I'll leave it at that. We have.
And still going.
And still going. I'm going to leave that as a mystery. It's going to be a little cliffhanger. So that'll be coming up very soon. We've met a sister who was an advocate, an activist, thrown in jail. I mean, everything. So we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all the greatness that are coming up. Love to hear your comments. And Sister, thank you for being present to me. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. So it was really good to meet you and to sit here. And I hope that I was part of the good, not the bad and ugly, but hopefully. Thank you again.
All right. Till next time, be well, everyone.
Thank you.